And I am so excited. Tonight, I have the honor and privilege to interview Ashley Hall. I think on here she's Harper, but we are going to just be chatting all things real, being vulnerable, and just sharing just like her journey. And I hope that inspires you. But Ash, I'm just going to kind of start with you and ask you how you got started in the business. Have you tell people like what that looked like for you and where your life was when that happened. You can unmute yourself, I think. Okay, yeah.
Hi. Okay, so when I first started, I was working full time. I always knew about the business, but it was never something that I was that interested in. Um, I saw people doing it from high school, and I was always like, that is so ridiculous. It probably doesn't work. That's so dumb. And so I was always just like, it was never something I thought I was going to do. And I always saw Kelsey posting. I probably watched her for like about a year, and she would reach out to me, and I was like, no, thanks. I'm not interested. No. And then I had my daughter. My son was 2, and then I had my daughter. And 2 weeks after I had my daughter, I knew it was coming, but my ex-husband now sent me divorce papers. So I was like, it was starting to become real that I was going to be going through a divorce. I was going to be a single mom with 2 kids. We were living in Atlanta at the time, and I was originally from New York. So I moved there with my mom and my dad. My dad had passed away a year before that. Me and my mom were his caregivers. And so it was just like, I was kind of in that place where I was like, okay, like this is happening. This is real. I didn't go to college. I don't have any savings. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to raise these 2 kids on my own? We were already struggling together. So I was just so worried about how I was going to be able to do it with one income. Um, of course, like I would expect and want their father's help, but that's never something that I wanted to depend on. And so I will never forget this day. I went back to work, and I was pumping in the little nursing room at my job. I worked at an office, and I reached out to Kelsey, and I was like, okay, tell me about what you do, because I can't do this anymore. I'm so sick of leaving my babies. I'm so sick of struggling like this. What am I going to do? So she was like, oh yeah, girl, call me. It's about time. And so I called her on my way home from work. And I remember it was like Thanksgiving weekend. And so she was telling me all about it. And I was like, all right, like I'm going to try to save for this. Christmas is coming. I'll join right after Christmas. I'll put aside $20 a week. That didn't happen, because when you're already struggling, how are you going to save, So January came, I was cashing change to put gas in my car. And that was the biggest breaking point that I had, because I was like, okay, if I don't do something to change this, nothing is going to change. So I got paid that next week, and I was like, I don't have the $99, but I'm just going to go for it. I was like, worst case, I get this little sample pack. I lose some weight from the coffee or the wraps. And so I ended up jumping into it and just took off. Like, I remember when I first joined, I was like, okay, like I'm not posting before and afters. Like, I don't like how that looks and whatever. And then Kelsey was like, here, put this post up, put this before and after up. And I was like, okay. So whatever she told me to do, I just followed it. And so I think it was 3 months in, I went Ruby. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And so because of that, I was living in me and my ex-husband were still living together, because neither one of us could afford to move out. And so when I hit Ruby, I was able to actually move to North Carolina, where I have family here. So me and my mom and my kids moved to North Carolina, and I was able to start renting a house before he was even giving child support. And that was like one of the biggest moments for me, where I felt so proud. And that was because of this business, and because of the friendships that I made, and Kelsey cheering me on and helping me realize how capable I was. And it's brought me so much closer to God too. So I was actually leaning on my faith, because before this, I wasn't even going to church. Like, going through the divorce and moving away for 14 hours from my family and losing my dad, because we were with my dad, and I was able to be there with him when he passed away. And just all of these things happening, I really just lost my way with God. And because of this business, I found it again. And so yeah, that's kind of my story of how I got into it.
I love it. I love it so much. And it's so crazy, looking back and like remembering some of the conversations that we had, because I think that, there were times like, and I want you to talk about the times where you felt like, can I do this? Like, is this something that I'm going to be able to do going through the divorce? Cause like when you go through a divorce, it's not just like one day. Like it's not like, you just like get a divorce, like you sign the papers and it's done. Like it can be a process. And so it was a process and it was tough. And I want you to kind of talk about that and talk about how that affected you and how the business kind of helped bring you through it.
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, it was like October, yeah, early October where we started our divorce. And it didn't end until the next October. So this whole dragged out process was a whole year long. And so when I first joined, and I joined in January, and that's when like it really started to begin. So that's when I was looking for lawyers and I was doing all this research, and I was like, I didn't go to college. I don't understand what half these words mean. And so I was like looking up so many things. I didn't feel like I felt strong on some days, and some hours of the day I felt like I can conquer anything. And then I would do things with that, like look up my divorce and feel like I would felt so defeated. Like, how can I do this on my own? Like, I was knocked down so much throughout my marriage. Like, I never felt like I was smart enough. I never felt like I was good enough. Um, and so that was something that I struggled with for so long. And just even with the lawyers and going through all these, like, the whole entire process is so draining and it's so tiring. So just going through that and still using this business as my out, like I was like, okay, like I'm instead, like I'm trying to think of like the best way to really explain it. So like I would get stressed out over like going through my divorce and looking up the file, like doing all the paperwork and getting all this information gathered together and like trying to come up with an agreement and going through all these things. But the business was my out on that. So like this was my, as stressful as the business can be, this was my like stress reliever, because I had like all of you guys. I had Kelsey. I had this uplifting community of women that just helped me push through that. And so that was so amazing. And just like knowing that I'm helping other women and connecting with other people, because it also took me a long time to share. Like I was going through my divorce probably for like 6 months before I ever posted about it or before I ever put anything up. And when I did end up sharing that, I remember so many people reaching out and being like, wow, like I can't believe that. And that's so crazy. I'm going through that too. So I was connecting with so many people at the same time. But so I loved that I was still able to like help other people go through it. And even now I feel like I'm able to help other people get through what I went through. But like, yeah, so it was stressful, and we were living in North Carolina, and I still had to go back to Atlanta for court. So I was still driving back there, and like I would drive there and I would call Kelsey, I would call other girls on the team, and I would do my self-development and listen to sermons and like do all these like uplifting things. But if I didn't have this business, I would not have done that. Like I wouldn't have listened to those sermons. I wouldn't have known to do like motivational things, listen to self development books like Rachel Hollis and things like that. And so yeah, but I'll never forget too. I remember like sitting in the court right before you get into the courtroom, you like sit outside and wait, whatever. And I'll never forget, like it was the end of the month, and that was the month I was promoting Diamond. And I remember I was sitting out there like on my phone, and as stressful as everything around me was, I was like helping sign up customers and putting up post to post and doing all these crazy things. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
I love it. I love it because I think too, it's crazy. Like, even when you say like, it's so weird to me because I've like knowing that your relationship with Jesus wasn't what it is now. And like even now, like you are like a youth leader, like at Elevation, and like there's so many crazy things. And I feel like I want you to talk about some of like your biggest victories, like that you've had, like in this journey, like not just like with the business. I mean, but some of the stuff is going to be business and like going diamond and like all that stuff, but like some of the other stuff of like doing being so involved in church and inspiring other people, and like the way, it's helped even parenting, like we've talked about, and just kind of talk about some of like the biggest wins that you've had over the last, gosh, what has it been, like two years?
It's like 2.5 years now, yeah. But yeah, no, so I feel like some of the wins definitely was getting, like, having that strong faith back. And like I was starting to a little bit at the beginning of it. I guess maybe like 2 months in, Kelsey sent me a Michael Todd sermon, and it was the marked sermon. And I remember, I'll never forget it. I was driving home from work, and I was like, marked. Like, I was so into the sermon. And after that, like, I felt like my head was on fire and I could do anything. So like I would listen to that sermon over and over, but like that brought me back to my faith so much. And that just showed me like I can do anything. Like, I am made for great things. And that was one of my biggest victories, was getting my faith back. And then when we moved to North Carolina, it was about finding a church. The Mark sermon actually happened to be at Elevation Church. So I went to Elevation Church thinking like, oh, maybe Mike Todd is here. And so that's kind of how we got into that church. But I remember like walking into the church, and me and my mom were just like, because we tried a few other churches here too, but like walking into that one, we were like, oh my God, like this is it. Like, I remember just like crying when we were in there worshiping, and I'm crying now just thinking about it, because it was like this amazing feeling, like just like on me, or it was like, oh my gosh, like this is so powerful. Like, I haven't felt that my whole life. And if it wasn't for this, and if it wasn't for having like this community of people, I wouldn't have found this church. Like, I would have moved here and like done my own thing, like maybe listened to some things online, or like found a church and went sometimes with my mom. But this was one of my biggest things, because then after going, I started to volunteer there I volunteered on like the youth team. So I would like go every other weekend and volunteer on the youth team. And then about, I guess, a year ago, I became a youth leader. So now I have like a youth group that we do every week. And so that was huge for me too, because I have this different confidence in me now where I've never had before. Like, if you asked me years ago if I could ever like pray in front of like, especially teenagers who are like more judgmental, I feel like, but just like being able to have a confidence to like speak to other people, or just like talking, like helping these youth through things. And like when I was in middle school, that's when I started to go to youth group. But like I always kind of have, like, I've lost my way, I found it again. And so yeah, that was a huge victory for me, because that showed me a different type of confidence that I have now. But yeah, that, and just like parenting in general, like anybody that has kids knows that parenting is very, very stressful. And like like I said, like when I joined, I had a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. And so that was very hard. I have my mom with me, thank God. My nieces are here, my brother's here, that helped me also. But it's still not easy. And it's still something that I struggle with now. Like, am I good enough to be their parent? And like, that's why it's also so important, like, that we have this community of people that make you feel like you can do literally anything and be like the best. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. But then I see Kelsey, and I talk to Kelsey, and she's like, I don't know if I'm doing it right either. And, like, it's good. Like, oh, okay, not just me. So it's something that, like, I feel like it will take a while, and it's something maybe I'll always struggle with. But I feel like I'm a lot more patient now. I'm a lot more positive now than I've ever been. And instead of like taking situations and being like, oh gosh, this is horrible, this sucks, now I kind of will flip it around and try to find like a solution instead of just like taking the bad out of things. So I've grown a lot in that way also.
I love it. And I think too that like sometimes we don't give ourselves credit. Like, and it's funny because I know you're probably like on here thinking like, dang, like I really have grown a lot, because like you literally do, like, we don't get a chance to like talk about it, like we don't get a chance to like really reflect back on how much we have grown and how much like dang, like I forgot, like even me, like thinking about like, dang, I forgot about all those conversations that we had, like hour-long conversations of me helping walk through some things that you were going through, like on your way to Atlanta, and then like calling me and telling me how it went. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things I'm like, dang, like to think about how far you've come in such even though it can feel long, like 2 years, like relatively short period of time, it's just awesome. So what advice would you give to somebody who's just going through a bunch of things externally? Like life just looks kind of hard right now. And there's certainly things that are understandable why it would stress people out, just like getting a divorce, just like having a newborn, just having two under two, you know, the hot mess life that is. Or maybe it's just a relationship with their parents or whatever that stresses them out. Like what advice would you give that really helped you get through those times?
I think that using this community of people to help you get through that, because it's always like the friends. It's, I feel like when you surround yourself with people who are going to bring out the better parts of what's going on, like instead of like, I know, and especially going through a divorce and like making it, I would call like my family and like, or just like anybody, and some friends would be like, oh yeah, do this and do that and start, and then I would call like someone from here who was like, okay, well, like let's talk this through and let's think about it. And I mean, I have like so many of my friends are like that too, but you know, like you go to so many people for advice, and like one of the biggest things that I've learned is to start like pray on it. Like go to the people, like go to your friends, ask them, but like, you know, the person that you need to lean on is God, because he already has it planned out for you. Like no, like, you know, like, and deep down we all know like what we have to do to push past it, and sometimes like we don't know whether we're doing the right thing or not, but doing that self-development and just like keeping your head like focused on what you're dreaming for and what your goals are. Like when I first joined, I wanted to be able to bring my son MJ to preschool. And I joined in January, and I was like, I have to go diamond by August, because August was when he was starting preschool. And I just kept so laser focused on going diamond by then so that I can bring him. And that's why like I wasn't letting anything else, like everything that was going around happening around me, get in the way. And so it's so important to have those goals that are going to help keep you on track when everything else starts to crumble around you, because everything will crumble around you and everything will get so stressful where you want to scream and you don't want to do this, but this is your out. Like this is going to help you because it's probably the answer to so many of your problems. But yeah, just like keeping so laser focused and listening to sermons, or just even I would listen to like just Zooms like this, and just people who are going to inspire you. And it's so important to just have that community of people that you can call when the inspiring motivational videos on YouTube aren't enough, because you do need other people. Like it takes a village to raise kids. It takes a village to get your head in the right place sometimes.
I love that. And I hope you guys heard what she said when she said, you know, you have to stay focused because this could be your out. And so the very thing that you're letting distract you, you could be saved from if you just invested that time into the business. And I think that like that's such like a wise thing to say. And if you can take that perspective of holy crap, like the things that I joined this business for can't be the reasons why I don't work it. The very things that I want, like as real as what's going on around you can be, sometimes your goals have to be even more real. And that is why having a dream board and having vision and having those things like her going, and I know a lot of times you guys, it can feel overwhelming. Like you hear all these people on here and they're like buying houses and cars and whatever. And it's like, no, your goal could be send your son to preschool. Like that could be your goal. Stop comparing it. But understanding that like that goal is just as important to focus on as a big house. That goal is just as important to focus on, and to stay laser focused when everything around you gets crazy, to center back on that goal, because the world and life does not stop for anybody. Because when that relationship ends, your goal is still going to be there. when you still have mouths to feed, you still have all of that to go after. And I think that, it's not that when people say this, it's to be insensitive or to make your feelings any less real to what's happening around you, because everybody is going through things. Drop a freaking one in the comments if you're like, yeah, I'm going through crap right now. If you're going through life, and anybody you call would say, dude, you can take a step back because all of this is just so hard. You should take a step back and focus on this. And then guess what happens is you're going to wake up when that mess is over, when that chaos is over, and the tornado still is going to leave its destruction, but are you still standing? And what that you standing is your faith in this business. And money doesn't buy happiness, but money can help give you options. And options can take a lot of stress off your back. And so I love that advice. Like that was so good. So let's talk about some of the struggles that you had. I mean, we touched on obviously the external things that were happening, and the external things that you could have used as an excuse, but you helped it to propel you forward. But what were some like the mental things that you kind of had to overcome?
I think that one of the biggest mental things was like, am I worthy of this? Am I good enough as everyone else that I see doing this? Am I, like, I always, growing up, I always felt like I wasn't, like, I had my friends, I had my good friends, but I always kind of felt like I wasn't fully fitting in. And so I that's something that I still struggle with. Like, I'm so awkward, I'm so weird. And I would always put that out there, where now I'm just like, who cares? Like, like, who cares? Like, love me for who I am. And so, but growing up, that was always something that I would struggle with. And so I still struggle with that now a little bit, but like going to conference and going on the retreats and stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, I tried. Like, everyone just loves you for you. And it doesn't matter if you're weird or if you're corny or whatever, like, no one's judging you. And like, these are the type of people that you need to surround yourself with, and that you need to have in your friend group, because you don't want to be the topic, like, worried about being the topic of the conversation when you get up from a table. And so like, or like leaving somewhere where you were just hanging out with your friends and being like, oh my gosh, like, can't believe I said this. They're probably talking about that. Like, but going on these leadership retreats and going to conference, I've never felt like that with any of you. And like, that's one of the most amazing things with this business. But also, when we went on our leadership retreat, we were all so like open and vulnerable with each other. We realized like everyone, so many of us feel like that, and it's something that everybody struggles with, and it's hard to overcome it, but it's like, you get better each day, and all you can do is try to be the best version of you, and that's it, and help other people do the same thing. And so, I mean, that's something that I've always struggled with. Like I said, I still kind of struggle with it a little bit now. um the
I
other
feel
thing I
like,
guess I would struggle with is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Something else that I feel like I struggle with is like being super hard on myself, where like for a while I like tried to force myself into being a morning person. And I kind of like morning person, like I'm up at 7 anyway, but like I wanted to be that morning person that's up at like 4 or 5 a.m. and getting things done. And so, and I'm a night owl and I don't go to sleep early. So it's like I was literally trying to run on like 4 hours of sleep, and then I would wake up in the morning and be so mad at myself because I would like completely miss my 5 o'clock alarm. And so every morning I would get so mad until I just finally was like, okay, I need to just deal with this right now. Getting up at 7 is still okay. You're on the prayer Zooms. This is great. Like, I'm like, okay, I need to just accept the fact that right now I am a night owl. And if I'm going to stay up till 2 a.m., then that's good too. And so, that's something that I've struggled with, where I'm like, okay, I need to just like be okay with that right now and stop beating myself up. Because also what I was doing was I was creating like I would wake up and then be in like an annoyed mood because I missed that alarm. And so another thing is like reading. So like like I like to read, but having two kids and like my son, he's 5, he's like so good, this little angel. And Olivia, she's so sweet, she's 2, but she is like a maniac. So like if I try to read, I can read like one paragraph and then I'm like, get off your brother, don't do that, what are you doing, what are you climbing on? And so I learned for me that audiobooks are the best thing right now. And so like that's my jam instead. And then Kelsey gave me the idea one day where get the audiobook and read along with the book when you can. So I've been doing that, or like I'll listen to the audiobook and then go highlight in the real book. And so, yeah, that's something that I've gotten better with too, is just like accepting certain things instead of trying to like completely change them about me.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think Hanielle's on here, and me and Hanielle, like every day, we're like, we're gonna wake up at 6 and do a power hour. And then like one day a week we'll get on. It's like, okay, well, we're trying, we're moving, we're making progress. But I think that everybody goes through seasons, and something that I feel like every successful person has is they learn how to adjust and not and pivot. Like, okay, so this isn't working, so let me make up this time when I stay up later, and let me make the most use of my time, and let me just be aware that this is what it is for now, and in the future maybe I'll have time to change it. And maybe, when your kids get older, we'll be able to read a freaking book. Like maybe when MJ and Liv are both in school, you'll be like reading 50 books a year, who knows. But like understanding that like it is going to come, but we have to learn how to adjust to still get it done in whatever way works for us. And I think that that's like one of the biggest things that I want all of you guys to know is like the shame and the guilt that you carry for not living up to some version of yourself that you've created in your head isn't serving you. It's not getting you to where you want to go. Now, should you always want to reach higher and be a better version of yourself? Yes, absolutely. But you also have to realize that some of the stuff you can't change. Some of the stuff you're just dealing with reality. And so you have to learn, like, what are the facts? Like, what are the facts? Like, it's kind of like I've been watching this Michael Jordan thing, so like basketball is just on my mind. But it's kind of like if you're in a game and there's somebody has 4 fouls, like, and you can't play them the same amount of time that you want to play them. Now, do you wish it was different? Yeah, of course you wish it was freaking different and you wish you could play them, but you have to change the game plan because that's not working right now. And that wouldn't be a smart move. And so learning how to just adjust mid-game, right? And be versatile and be able to pivot and be able to say, you know what, it might not look exactly how I wanted it to look, but I'm still doing the things that I need to do. And there's a really good book called Whatever It Takes. And so it's just like learning how to do whatever it takes or I think it's called It Takes What It Takes, but just learning, like, it's just going to take what it freaking takes. Like, and it might take something more than you thought. It might take something less than you thought, but you just have to kind of adjust to what that is in order to get it done because your dreams are worth it. So Ash, what do you feel like is something that you wish you would have known, like when you first got started? Like when you first got started, what's something that you wish you could go back and tell yourself?
Um, it's a hard question. I feel like I would tell myself so many things. I think one of the main things that I would tell myself is like, you are so worthy. You can do anything that you set your mind to. You are capable of so much, because believing in myself and like not comparing myself to the person next to me is always something that I've struggled with also. And just like knowing that I can do more, because growing up, we struggled, like my parents struggled so bad. And it was hard. And I didn't know that there was like a life where you can, like, it was possible to make that much money, or it was possible to not have to work your ass off to get to certain places. So I mean, obviously, like, you have to work hard, but you know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize that it was really possible to do something like that for me, because I didn't grow up with a family with a lot of money. And so I didn't know that I could end up making a lot of money for my family and be able to support my kids on my own and be able to show them a life and take them to Disney World and buy a house for them. And like, have them dream really big, because I feel like I didn't dream big when I was little. Like I did until I got to like middle school and was like, oh, like, yeah, no, I think I'm just gonna have to work all my life or marry someone rich or whatever. But it's like, no, like you could do so much more. So I think just knowing that I can dream really big and not have any limits on what I'm dreaming for, because I'm capable of achieving that, and just lean on God through the whole thing, and you're going to get there. And so I think that that is something that I wish I would have known when I first started.
I freaking love that. And I think so many people can relate to that. I know I can relate to that. It's like you almost don't even allow yourself to dream because you feel like I just don't want to be disappointed, because a lot of us have been disappointed in our life, and we haven't got what we want, and it's scary to feel disappointed. And so we just don't even let ourselves dream anymore, because it's just like, you know what, like that's it, like this is what I'm made for, and this is all that God has for me. And I think once we see other people who are just like us achieving more, it's inspirational, and we can see that we can do it too. That no matter what happened in our past, that no matter what, we've gone through, no matter what other labels we feel like people are putting on us, that we can be successful in this business. And that's one of the main reasons that I love it, is because it's literally an equal opportunity. And so I'm like so proud of you, and I'm so excited for everything that's happening. And I think that one of the things that I want to touch on too is promotions. And we have 13 days left in this month, and I know that you know sometimes it can feel like things are so far away, and it can feel like, is this going to happen? Like, I was shooting for this goal at the beginning of the month, and I set this goal. Like, is this even possible right now? And it feels like, how can this happen? What advice would you give to somebody who's just kind of doubting themselves? Like, and it's just kind of like, is this too far with 13 days left in the month?
I think just know that you're capable of it. Like you can do it, and you can reach that goal, because if you're not, and if you don't think that you can do it, you can do it. And you have to lean on God and just pray over your business, pray over your chart, pray for God to send you the people that he wants you to help. And so that's something that I feel like has changed for me, is just like being like, okay, God, like send me people who you want me to help, whether it's their health goals um, or making extra money. And so I feel like just knowing that you're capable and that you can't dream too big, because even if you don't get it this month, you're going to be so much closer next month. But just knowing that you're capable of so much more than you realize.
Yeah, and I think that that's so important, because so many people will try to justify it, because I think we all start to think about, how am I going to do this? How am I going to fill this chart? How am I going to fill this volume, right? And we have to realize we need to just put down the charts, put down the things, and get to work. Like, you need to start, instead of looking down at boxes and looking at our charts as boxes, like look down at people and start talking to them, right? And I feel like sometimes we make it harder for ourselves than it needs to be. And when we realize that, like, when you promote, like, promoting is super, it's an intense process, right? Like, it's not just like, oh, just like accidentally promoted. Like, it's a very intentional process. And so when you're doing it, you have to you have to fuel yourself, right? Like, you have to be doing self-development during that time. You have to be pouring into yourself, because we can't pour from an empty cup. And like, understanding that, one thing that I love about your journey, Ash, is like, looking back when you went diamond, you probably thought your journey would be a lot different, than where you are now. And you were probably like, oh, like, I'll just promote to double the next month, and then triple the next month, and just move forward. And I'm sure that it's come with, a lot of, I should have, or I wish I would have, or whatever. But what would you like say that you've learned from that whole experience? Because, in all honesty, there's no expiration date on people's success.
Yeah, and I
And
think that just I wasn't ready for it then. Like I look back on it now and I'm like, I wasn't ready for the leadership position that I'm in now. I didn't have the right team. I I feel like it's all on his timing, and like we try to make up these timelines in our heads, but like if we're not really truly ready for it and truly prepared for like those leadership spots, it's not going to happen. And I also feel like I wasn't working as hard then than I am now, as I am now. And like I have the right people now, and like even my girls, like their heads are in it now, and like everyone's running together, and I love it so much. And it's like if I went then, I might have missed right now, and I might not have the people on my team that I have now. So it's all in the right timing. And like when you're ready for it, that's when it's going to really truly happen. As annoying as it is to be that patient, it's going to happen when he's ready for you to be in that position.
I love that. And it's so true, and it is annoying sometimes when people are like, oh, it's just in his timing. And you're like, but when is that? Like, when is that timing? Like somebody just tell me, do I need to do 1,200 push-ups? Do I have to send out 100 million messages? Just tell me what I need to freaking do. And sometimes God isn't changing the situation because he wants to change you. And he wants you to learn what he's trying to teach you in that situation. And I think that, God chose all of you. And that's what I want you guys to hear is he chose all of you. And right now we have the opportunity to do something legendary. You have the opportunity to do something legendary in your life. Like whatever the legendary looks like for you, you have that opportunity. And if God is giving you the opportunity to work harder, freaking take it. Freaking take it. Like I know for me, one of the most frustrating things and what kind of turned things for me and why I feel like I work hard is because I didn't used to have the opportunity. I had a 9-to-5 job where they restricted the opportunity, right? The opportunity was given based on, how long you've been there, and, it wasn't a true free opportunity. And right now God is giving us an opportunity to work for something, to work hard. Just take it, because you'll never get this part of 2020 back. And like Ashley said, you're so much more capable than you think you are. You're so much more capable. And so stop worrying about everybody else. Stop worrying about like how that person promoted, because what God has for you is so different. And the difficult things in your business or outside of the business that you're going through right now are actually going to help you later on. It's actually preparing you for the blessing, right? And because you have to realize that if you got success like this, you would throw it away just like you do all this crap you buy at the dollar section at Target. Because you just got it like this. It was $1, right? Like it didn't cost you anything. And so if it doesn't cost you anything, then you're not going to value it. And so understand that like every single person that is in VIP, every single person that is diamond, every single person that is in a leadership position that you look at and you think that they're perfect, like they had to fight. Ashley had to fight. Gabby had to fight. Taylor has to fight. Kirsten has to fight. Kelsey has to fight. Connie has to fight. We all are fighting with you. And that's why I love this business, because it's such an equal opportunity. And if you have, and everybody has the same opportunity to work hard. Everybody has the same opportunity to work hard. And so just understand that like you should always be dreaming big. You should always be moving forward, because the thing is like the doors that God opens sometimes aren't the difficult ones, aren't always going to be the easy ones to walk through. Sometimes they're going to be the hard ones to walk through. Sometimes they're going to be ones that you didn't expect that would open. You didn't expect your journey. This is not how you would have painted the picture, right? This is way different, but it's so much sweeter. And it's so much better because he knows the right things at the right time, like Ashley said. So Ash, is there any last things that you want to just touch on before we hop off of here?
No, I think to just knowing that you're capable to reach that next promotion and shoot for it, because if you miss, you'll be closer to it next month. So just go for that. Don't be scared, and don't be scared to reach out to your family for host to post, because that was something that I was so scared to do at first. But you'll be surprised at the people who want to help cheer you on and help you reach your goals.
I want you to say that part again where you said, even if you don't hit it, you'll be so much closer next month.
Yeah, even if you don't hit it, you'll be so much closer to it next month.
Yep. Yep. And Steve Harvey says, and I say this all the time because it's so freaking true, but like he says that you have to put your adversity in the past. You have to put the hard things in the past. And there's a reason why your windshield is this big and why your rearview mirror is this big. You want to learn from the stuff that happened in your past, but you want to continue to look forward because there's always lessons and failures. We're always going to learn more from the things that we mess up on than the things that we succeed in. And we're going to get through it because nothing that God has brought you to, he hasn't brought you through. And anything that you feel like you're in right now, he's going to bring you through it. And so, Ash, I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for everything that's about to happen just in your life and all the blessings that you are receiving. You are so worthy of it. And I know, like, and you guys, here's the thing, is this is something that is going to be a constant journey. I had to tell Ash the other day, like, I was like, I'd hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Like, I told you you were capable. Like, all of this stuff we all struggle with. We all like, don't let the devil get in your head and think you're the only person that struggles with this and there's something that's wrong with you, because they're not. We all, there's nothing wrong with you. You're human, you're normal, and we can all connect to that. So I'm going to close this out in prayer. Thank you again, Ashley. I love you so much. Dear Jesus, we're so thankful for Ashley. We're so thankful for her leadership, for her growth, and everything that you've brought her through, Jesus. You've molded her into such an incredible person, and we're just grateful for the growth that you've shown her, and just by carrying her through some of the things in her life that weren't always the prettiest moments, but you brought her through it and brought her out so much better, and we're so grateful for that. I ask that you just bless her business abundantly, and every single person under the sound of my voice, Jesus, I just ask that you bless their business in abundance, that you give them more than they could have asked for or imagined, and that their business is literally multiplying as we speak, and that all the seeds that they're planting, that every single seed that we're planting, we're going to get returned in tenfold on your timing. And we know that it's not our journey to write, that you've already written it, that you're the author, you finished the story already. But Jesus, help us do the things that are pleasing for you. Help us walk in with your shield of protection around us, and not just protecting our health and protecting our physical body, but also protecting our spiritual body, Lord. I know that when we're going after big dreams and big goals that you've placed on our heart, Lord, that the enemy will come. And we ask that you just protect our spirit and our mind, because if there's no enemy within us, then the enemy outside can do us no harm. And so, Lord, we just ask that you continue to protect us during all the things that might happen during this month, and that we just stay focused on what it is that you truly want us to accomplish, so that when we get there, we can give you the glory. We're so thankful for everything you've done. We're so grateful for everything you're about to do. We ask all this in your name. Amen. I love you guys. Thank you so much for hopping on. I'm so proud of all of you guys for just choosing your business and prioritizing it tonight. It doesn't go unnoticed. I look at every single person's name and just know that I see you, and I'm proud of you for choosing your business. So love you guys. Thanks, Ash.